Hi, I'm Sister Geralyn, and you're listening to Musings of a Catholic Evangelist. Many, many years ago, when I was, probably a middle schooler, I had the great privilege of staying in my uncle's summer house out in Connecticut on the Long Island Sound. I had the great joy of beachcombing for shells and, different things that wash up on the shore. And then I found a clump of shells that were stuck together that were beautiful in its ugliness, if that makes sense. Okay. So I put it in a plastic bag, put it in the trunk and back seat of the car, and kind of like that was my souvenir for the trip to Connecticut. When we're coming back home, and it was in the car for a couple of days. When we opened the car to go back home, there was a smell of dead fish coming from the clump of shells. I had realized that it really wasn't a clump of shells, but a clump of snails. And some of the snails had died because of the heat of the car, but yet when I moved the shells, some of them moved, so some of them were still alive. Now, as I threw it back into the ocean and apologized to the snails that were alive, that I killed some of its brothers and sisters, it was one of those moments in which I realized that even though I thought they were one shell stuck together, it really wasn't. This reminded me, as I continued the reflections on the Eucharist, I came across a book called The 7 Secrets of the Eucharist by Mr. Vinnie Flynn. And one of the things, the first secrets, and we often take this for granted, I think so much of our Catholic faith is, especially as a cradle Catholic, we just accept it blindly, like this is what it is, without really truly owning it. He says the first secret in this book, that the Eucharist is alive. We take, when we receive communion, we take into our bodies the living person of Jesus Christ, true God and true man. Our hearts beat one with him, and his heart beats one with us. Not only with him, but with everyone else in the church who's receiving communion, and everyone else maybe online, as the people online are receiving are partaking into a Eucharistic spiritual communion. But we are one heart and one soul, not only with God, but with all of humanity. Because the Eucharist is alive, because the Eucharist is the baby born in the manger, because the Eucharist is the teen working next door to his father in the carpenter's shop, because the Eucharist is the adult who suffered, died, and rose again. And the Eucharist is the Christ who reigns now in heaven. He is alive. He is alive. As we approach the Eucharist and receive communion, it is my prayer that we see the living presence, the living Christ in that Eucharist. Don't be blind to it, like I was blind to those snails embedded in those shells.